Hi, my name is Belinda Doherty, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Speech Language Pathology at CSULB. Today's presentation is offered to you by the College of Health and Human Services Faculty Development Committee, including myself as committee chair, Grace Reynolds Fisher, Associate Dean for CHHS, Pamela Zandre, Judy Zhu, and Virginia Gray. What items should you look to put in your file as a lecturer being evaluated? You want to include a narrative focused on your teaching. That should include courses instructed, as well as course changes you have made to meet student needs and/or in response to student feedback. That feedback might have been provided in class, or it might have been provided on formal evaluation forms. You should include an updated CV and a GPA table. Your spot evaluations should also be included. Your spot evaluations are the student perceptions of teaching. Student perceptions of teaching is an anonymous questionnaire that offers students the opportunity to provide feedback to their instructors. It's collected at the end of every class instructed. As you teach classes, you want to make sure that you are encouraging students to take these evaluations and then that you are reading those evaluations and appropriately integrating feedback to improve your teaching practice. Lastly, your file should include course materials, including syllabi, course slides, and/or assignments that illustrate how you are teaching content in your courses.
Hi, my name is Virginia Gray, and I'm an associate professor of nutrition and dietetics in the Department of Family and Consumer Sciences at CSULB. I'll be providing some tips on putting your materials together, including your cover letter and narrative and additional materials. On the left of this screen, you see the list of items Faculty Affairs suggests including in your cover letter and narrative. So you can start your cover letter with an introduction to the contents of your comprehensive evaluation file. Next, providing a statement of your teaching philosophy in your cover letter is acceptable, or you can include this as a separate document. For me, integrating the two is helpful because it allows me to update one document as the overall evaluation unfolds over the years rather than having multiple documents to keep track of. The teaching philosophy leads well into this next section. So you're asked to provide a summary of the courses that you've taught each semester, and then the highlights for those courses. So those highlights include some statements about spot evaluations, what went well, what are some things that you might improve, and then your highlights of instructional materials. This can include some comments on your syllabi, your class activities, assignments, exams, etc. And then also highlights of service to students. So completing this part at the end of each semester can be really helpful at preparing over time for your evaluation, and also to let you use this reflective process to help at the end of each semester think through what went well and what you might improve in the future. You can also include statements about your professional growth and development and university and community service if you would like to. Interfolio includes folders to submit this cover letter, and you actually see here it says narrative and cover letter combined, and a list of your additional documents. So you might prepare a separate file that indexes the other documents that you are providing so your reviewers know what those documents are and where to find them. You might also number these documents and then include those numbers in your cover letter so that when reviewers are looking for each item, they can easily find them in your materials. You're also asked to provide your recent CV or resume, and then there are folders for your teaching materials, such as your syllabi, spot forms and table, additional materials, which can include, again, assignments, exams, etc. Then there's also a place for you to include any RISCA or service activities that you'd like to highlight, and a folder for your prior evaluations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Judy Joe, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Health Science here in the College of Health and Human Services. In this section of the video, we'll be going over an example of a well-written evaluation file, generously shared with us by Sarah Gershwin-Razzo in the Health Science Department. As mentioned earlier, the cover letter and narrative provides a summary of your teaching activities, along with any highlights related to professional development or service. The narrative itself can be formatted as a letter so that you don't have to write a separate cover letter. However, if you prefer, you can also separate the two out. As you can see here, the narrative should start with a statement of your teaching philosophy, followed by a list of the courses you taught during the evaluation period. It may also be helpful to include a table of contents listing the items in your file so that reviewers can navigate your materials more easily. Within your list of courses, you can include commentary about your teaching approach and experiences for each class. This might also be a good place to highlight achievements associated with a specific class, such as successfully adopting a course to different teaching modalities, as Sarah does here. Any gaps in your materials can also be explained here. For example, as you can see here, Sarah co-taught several courses where the spot evaluation forms were sent to her co-instructor. This explains to reviewers and helps them understand why those spot evaluation forms are not in her file. The next section should address student evaluations. This includes highlighting positive comments from students using direct quotes from spot evaluations if possible. Also important to include is a summary of revisions or changes that you've made to your classes as a result of student suggestions or recommendations. Now, when you're highlighting course revisions, it's helpful to identify exactly what students suggested, the specific steps you took to consider and implement the suggested changes, and the results of those changes. As you can see here, course revisions can include both substantive changes in materials or textbook, or smaller changes like providing students with examples of previous work. The next section should provide some highlights of the instructional methods and materials you use. This is your opportunity to demonstrate your use of innovative and effective teaching methods, such as the incorporation of technology into your teaching. The narrative in this section should be supported by the supplemental materials in your file. Next, your narrative can highlight examples of service to students, such as positive student interactions and collaborations, or providing students with needed resources. Here, for example, Sarah talks about providing students with referrals to campus resources like the CARES team. The final two sections are optional, but highly recommended if you have examples of professional development or service you would like to highlight. Here, for example, Sarah mentioned some organizations she's joined to help her better serve a diverse student body. Finally, service to the university or community can also be highlighted here. You can see in Sarah's example that she provides several concrete instances of service provided in both university and community contexts. The cover letter and narrative can wrap up with a brief closing summary or statement. In addition to the cover letter and narrative, here's an example of how a spot table can be presented. Of course, your table can be formatted in any way that you prefer, as long as it contains all the required information and is easily legible to evaluators. And this is just one example of a well-written file. Depending on your teaching, service, and professional development activities, your file may look slightly different. The main thing to keep in mind is to make sure that your file contains all needed content, that it's well organized, and that it provides a clear and full pictures of your accomplishments over the evaluation period.
Hello, I'm Grace Reynolds Fisher, Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs and Research in the College of Health and Human Services, and I'm speaking briefly today on the required tables and GPA information that you'll need to include for your lecture evaluation. So there are two types of data that you need to submit with your materials for evaluation. One is the spot evaluations, and those will be sent directly to you by Academic Technology Services, and you can also access them through the single sign-on. The other data that you'll need to submit is the required GPA information. And GPA information is not made available directly to faculty due to confidentiality issues. So you'll need to get these data from your department administrative services coordinator or whoever your chair has tasked with providing this information. So this is an example of what the GPA table would look like. You would have the semester, the course number and section that you taught, the number of students enrolled, the distribution of the grades, A through F, plus the information on how many students received a W. And then you will have the overall course GPA, and then the department comparison GPA. So for example, if you taught an undergraduate upper division class, the comparison would then be the GPAs from all the other courses in your department that were undergraduate classes at the upper division, and then the GPA information from the college. And then again, that information would be for classes at the same level as the class you taught. So for example, if you taught undergraduate upper division courses, that's your comparison group. Anyway, I hope you found this information helpful, and best of luck with your lecture review.